Hello, everybody, and thank you for tuning in to another episode of The Warehouse, a Speaking Of show, right here on WFSU. Today, like always, we have an incredibly special guest. This is another discipline that we've never talked about on the show before. We have with us Sue Stelzmann, the founder and owner of Tallahassee Clay Arts. Thank you for joining us, Susan.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So like always, let's just dive right in. How long have you all been around?
I started around 2012, 13. I did an installation of the poetry wall with Mary Jane Wiles. She was the poet. And I did a mural with ceramics. And I've always enjoyed working in art with other people and collaborating. And Tallahassee Clay Arts came out of a need, I think, for community. And I just didn't see it around. So I started making it myself.
That's the hot button word on this show. There's two hot button words, I guess three: art, culture, and community being that third prong that latches them both together. And I'm so glad that you started there because I usually creep into that. So let's just start right there. When you started, you said that there was a need for a community, but it wasn't quite there yet.
Right. So the Gaines Street corridor was a promise to make more of an arts district.
Sure.
And the installation was supposedly in front of a performing arts center that was to be. That didn't happen. And as you know, the years have gone by and the arts district is not quite as what they imagined it. But it was an aspiration to really lean into that ideal. And working with others and not competing with them in art is a really important aspect of community, because I think we don't have a lot of ceramic artists and clay artists as in other areas. We kind of feel isolated here in Tallahassee in that sense, but there is quite a number of people who are working in ceramics. And I started by solving a problem, which was supplying clay. And it was more of a service so people could have access, and that brought people together.
Yeah.
And it kind of got me in because they needed that problem solved. And slowly but surely, that just worked really well. They would pick up stuff out of my house, out of my driveway, and it was really low-key kind of interactions. And I would reach out to different studios and individuals, and I also organized studio tours every year, just so people can see each other and meet these artists, because we didn't have a space as a group. And that was kind of the promise of Gaines Street. There'd be artist spaces and all these things. And so kind of zoom up, I was doing things out of my garage. I started teaching classes. And again, this is more reaching out to people, enjoying that aspect of community through.
And these are ceramics classes.
Just pottery classes, and it started out small. And just recently, 5 years ago, actually, it's not that recent, I bought a place, and that became a space. And I converted that into a small but doable cottage that has space for people to come and do ceramics as a community.
Well, see, what we learn so often on this show is we're usually not just talking to somebody who's thriving in their field. We're usually talking to somebody who's a pioneer. And everybody hates to be a pioneer, but it is true. In that space locally, you have been a pioneer because not only had that community not formed, especially around clay and ceramic artists, that initial investment of service has now spooled out to not only serve that community directly, but it's also given an economy for more spaces similar to yours to come and latch on and also benefit from this platform that you so...
Right. I've always seen the potential. It was always right there. It's just a matter of putting in the effort to... sweat equity, I call it. I never got paid for any of it. I just thought I would do it. I even did a big show at 621 in 2019, which was bringing everyone together of different kinds of versions of clay artists, from the sculptor to the potter.
Yeah, I remember Barbara Balser was in that show, right? Yes, I remember.
Yeah, there
absolutely.
was a bunch of really good folks in there. A labor of love, and it was really good. And about that time, I got this place and converted it as an old house. But over time, I have the tour has spawned the pottery market, and I don't actually run that anymore, but they go twice a year, and dedicated potters and people that are just starting out have started this show, and it's been very successful.
And they do that show twice a year?
Twice a year.
Yes.
Around May, we just had one, and then right before the holidays.
For some reason, I thought it was 3 times a year, but it's twice.
It's twice a year.
Yeah.
I think they aspire to do more, but it is twice a year this
And so
time.
that's a perfect segue because originally this was kind of born out of some of your programming. And now that you have the space, let's talk about the space directly. What types of things happen inside of Tallahassee Clay Arts?
I still provide small classes, pottery classes on throwing and hand building. So I have a few instructors, and they help me out. I also do access for people who are leaning into this and doing this more on their own. And so people can rent weekly, or they can do full access, which is they can come and go as they please.
You
They
mean
just
like
have-
studio spaces?
Yeah, it's mostly they share the whole space.
Gotcha.
They don't have a dedicated space. So they get a key code. And I don't have a ton of people. I have enough to make it quiet and productive, and people have access to all the materials for glazing. They have to buy their own clay, but I do all the firing.
Sure.
So it's not an easy art for people to have to start, because it has a lot of infrastructure, because kilns and firing, it's not something you should invest in, and wheels and all those pieces of equipment. So I think this is a great solution for people who don't own their own homes and don't want to convert their studio, their apartments to a studio space just yet. But I got a variety of people, all kinds of people love clay. I mean, you cut the age range, backgrounds. That's what's so good about clay.
That is a perfect segue. For a lot of people that aren't, inundated with art and culture like me and you on a daily basis, a lot of people, know pottery and clay making from that old Ghost scene with Demi Moore, and that was the introduction and about all they'll ever get from it until I would say, and I could be wrong about this, I'm young enough where I can still be wrong, about 10 years ago, a lot like vinyl, there seemed to be a hobbyist resurgence of throwing clay. And I'm sure that's benefited you, but it has just benefited
It
the
has
community as a
ballooned.
whole.
It
Yes.
has been an increasing amount of interest in it. I was in it for years, decades. And and COVID helped in a sense, because everyone wanted to get into making things, using their hands, getting off the videos and all that other stuff. And it's an antidote to our culture, because people want to lean in a little bit with other people who are doing the same thing. So this is a real life, real hands-on artwork experience, and I think it's very healing. A lot of people, when they say they have a art practice with ceramics, they say it's part of their healing practice, or helps them feel better about things. And I truly believe that art and making art is very helpful. And even if you might not be in a show or ever do it, just doing it on your own, or making a few pots for your own self, it's helpful.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's not only helpful. So somebody says, and I've used this quote before, the person that saves themselves saves 1,000 others. Stuff like pottery, or I shouldn't say stuff, things like pottery, I have seen it serve as a therapy for so many people that has made them more equipped to go out and do whatever they do, whether it's, professional pottery or whether they're an accountant.
Right.
In saying that, let me ask you a cool little question. Working with so many people, some of them who are extremely talented in this discipline, and some of them, who just found out about it on TikTok and they want to come and throw some clay. How has that disparate nature of this discipline served in such a beautiful way, having
Right.
the whole gamut
I
there?
was doing one-off pottery classes, and I recently stopped doing that because other people are doing that, and I think that's great. But just getting those people that are just have a taste for it, they're just checking it out. And I get a lot of, when I was teaching that, it was fun. People just really, the light bulb would go off. And I understand that people may not have enough bandwidth in their life at this moment to do this practice of art, but at least it's a seed. A lot of them got that seed planted in school. I always get people coming in and, oh, I did this in kindergarten or whatever. I touch. So those seeds get planted and people do want to come back to it. It's just a matter of clearing out your schedule and having time for it. Now, once you get more committed to taking care of yourself, maybe your art practice might be, or your writing, or whatever practice you want to get in that's expressive, it's just a matter of time before you get better.
Exactly right.
It's just a matter of time. A lot of people say, I'm not an artist. I'm not hey, pottery is just about problem solving. You're going to just figure out, you have to be observant. You just learn a few things. You just ask questions. You're going to figure it out. But it's about focused problem solving, and then you'll make that beautiful place setting you've always dreamed about.
Let me put you on the spot. Is it an art? Is it a craft? Or does it jump lily pads and it's a bit of both?
That's what's so great about it. It does all of that because you can stay in that pottery lane and be more like a crafts person and a fine craft. It is. I always said you can have a cup in your hand and it's like a piece of artwork that you're drinking from.
And it decorates your life.
Yeah, it can. It can be very lovely that way. And then there's other people who just want to take it and have more thought into it. They've got more like a painting. There's a lot more into it than just functionality. So it's something people can take it or leave it sometimes. I do a lot of yard art, to be honest.
Do you still practice?
Once in a while. I enjoy trying to make, again, yard art because I don't do pottery personally. I would say I'm not a potter. I'm more of a ceramicist, those are just little parsed words. I like making things that will be more as a display and not necessarily function. I couldn't make the same thing twice if you made me. So I have a hard time being precise. But I still enjoy it. The clay informs me when I'm making things. So sometimes I have a big idea, but once I start the project, it shifts because it just has its own. I'm interacting with this medium, this material that just has its own information that I have to constantly pivot with and all this. So that's why I love that.
I hear that. So I was talking to Gloria Nicholson, and she says the same thing. She says, I'll start with an idea. And by the time I collect the data from the clay, it's told me whether I'm right or I'm wrong, and I'm usually wrong, and it will have me make something else completely.
Exactly. And she has she has great ideas, but she tends to bring her own self into her work, and it's very personal. And I love what she does. And she makes these beautiful masks and vessels and things like that can just play off each other. So.
How does it make you feel to go to an exhibition or somewhere where it's on display and see a piece that was directly influenced in some way by Tallahassee Clay Art?
This has been a real joy. I mean, it has been. When I see that I've helped, it's not all about me, and that's what I kind of let go of, being an artist in my own right, in terms of going and having success in that realm. I enjoy seeing other people progress, and I love seeing the joy on their face when I give them that spark, and the ability to kind of like, I can do this. Some people, I'm not an artist, and then soon enough they've been there for 2 or 3 years, and they're like got their own show.
Yeah.
So that's been very much a joy.
For people who are listening, and they said, you know what? I just saw that on social media, or I just came across that, and I was wondering where I could get plugged into town. How would they find you?
Just Google Tallahassee Clay Arts or pottery classes. There's only a handful of outlets to get. You don't have to go through me personally. There's other places in town that have classes that will suit your schedule. I think that's the biggest barrier is it doesn't fit someone's particular schedule or timing. But keep trying and finding the right group. A lot of people do it at home and have their own personal studios. You might have a friend that might have can get together and do it that way. But personally, I think I'll be on the top of the Google search if you're looking for classes.
And are your classes pretty regular?
Yes, I've been teaching classes for 8 to 9 years. So they don't stop. They're small and they get booked up quickly.
One thing that we haven't talked about yet, which is something that we usually get to at the front end, is you. How did you get into this discipline, this medium?
Not easily. I think I started, it was something, I've always been a person who loved art as a kid. I wanted to do all of it. I wanted to be music, painting, anything. But I had to focus. And I finally, in my 20s, I just kind of had to make a decision point. I was taking community classes. And I decided that was the one because it just captured me, and I haven't looked back. It's always interesting. It never is boring, and just, you can make so many different things out of it. And I didn't get an art degree, so I got a college degree of mathematics, and I worked in an office job for decades. So I'm not like the normal classic artist
But I
type.
also heard you say, and I've heard other classic, in air quotes, classic artists say that there is so much cross-pollination between the non-disciplines and the art disciplines. And I heard you say earlier that pottery or ceramics is really just a display or a critique or an experience in problem solving, which is a lot what math is. What have you seen? What about your former self has helped you in this space?
Oh, well, just being organized and making sure put on events
Yeah.
and knowing how to use a computer and post things. I'm not the savviest at social media, but I can do a web page and I know how to do, just cultivate organizing others. So as a person who's trying to bring in community, those skills are really important. I got really good at them. I can organize the fun out of most anything. But that's an important skill set that I've had from my computer jobs from those decades that I worked, and the discipline to follow through and how to talk to just about anybody. You need to be open-minded to all kinds of people because they're all coming from different places when they come to your door for wanting to do this, and a lot of them are frightened or have trepidation. So being compassionate about that process is because it's not an easy line. Yeah. And when people have enough bandwidth in their life to have art, they bring in art in their life, I think it's an important thing to cultivate because that connects us. Absolutely. Because it takes down all the other barriers, and so it's important. So that's what helps me be happy about, other people. So we can talk about art all day long, and we can geek out about ceramics, which is what I'm hopefully providing in my studio. People they can't talk to their spouses or their partners. Like, oh, that glaze. If you talk about glaze one more day, I'm going to, yeah. So it's important to be around people that share that passion with you.
In no way to diminish what you do, but from a lay person, cosmetically, we look at ceramicists or potters or people that throw clay as people who take something that was kind of there and make it something else. We are so glad as a community that Sue Stelzmann took something that was kind of there, threw it on her proverbial kiln or whatever it is, and made community out of it. We are forever indebted to you. I appreciate you so much, and I appreciate you all at home for joining us again for another episode of The Warehouse. See you next time. Bye-bye.